tonight we're going to talk about correcting the spine to its maximum potential. And the first thing we're going to talk about are a little bit of my credentials. And I graduated from the Palmer College of Chiropractic in 1992. It's in Davenport, Iowa. And then I got a diplomat in neurology. So that's a specialty in chiropractic. It's a 400-hour program. And then you take a board that's kind of difficult. When I took it, only 20% of the people passed. And then in 2015, I became CLEAR certified, and that's also a pretty strenuous certification. And when I took it, to be intensive care certified, you had to have a group of patients with over a 30-degree curve that had a 30% reduction in their curve. And that's pretty difficult. And that was only seeing the patient 3 times a week versus seeing them twice a day. When it's twice a day, so it was a very challenging process. You never want to be excited that somebody's coming in with scoliosis, but you're actually like, oh my gosh, I have one that's over 30 degrees, it fits the parameters, now we have to make sure they get better. And so it was an interesting process. Then we got certified in Scoliosis. And Scoliosis is a super overcorrective scoliosis brace, and with certain curves, it really enhances the correction, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. What do you think the USA is ranked today in overall health? There's about 200 countries in the world. Where do you think we rank?
22nd.
Wow, you must have seen the slideshow already. Any other guesses? 37th. But 22nd is a lot closer than most people guess. Would you agree we should be a lot higher than that?
No.
We should be number one, right? We should be striving to be the best, healthiest country in the world. But unfortunately, we're not there. That Snickers and hamburger is part of it. What do you think we're ranked in the world in infant mortality?
22nd.
Eventually you'll get that right. 52nd. So many people will say, oh my gosh, 52nd, we're so advanced, how could it be 52nd? Well, there's some research out there, and it will blow your mind. I just was hearing some stuff, and I have to do some more research on it, but you can look at cesarean rates in populations of wealth in population centers. So you can look at somewhere like, say, Iowa or something like that, real low cesarean rate. Then you can look at somewhere like San Francisco, Manhattan, Atlanta, and then you look at the cesarean rate, it's like over 50%. So when you look at an ethical, that's what the article is about. I remember, I hear so many things. So it was an article about the ethical cesarean rate. The ethical cesarean rate has been determined to be 13% or less. So in most really hopping places in the United States, it's over 50%. So so when you have something that's like for real, where it is like that shouldn't make a difference. Like the same amount of people in Montana should be getting a cesarean in San Francisco if they really needed the cesarean. But what they're seeing is it's like all demographics. Just like you'll see a medication that will become popular in a town, and then there's like all these people on that medication in that town, but in another town with the same kind of health problems, there's nobody on that medication. So it's like a lot of weird dynamics with that kind of stuff. So health is something that's 100% perfect already. I mean, birth is. And so sometimes when you over-intervention it, then it becomes less healthy. So there's third world countries that have a better survivability rate than the United States does because we complicate things. And that's why I was going over that cesarean thing, because birth is already perfect. When you try to improve on something that's perfect, it's less perfect. Over 1 million mothers, daughters, fathers, and sons will die from heart disease and cancer this year. Would you agree we need to make some major changes in the way we approach our health? Yes, right?
Yeah.
Those numbers are not good. We want to be a lot better than that. So there's 5 attitudes that prevent us from being healthy. 1, it's out of my control. 2, it's normal to get sick. 3, disease makes us sick. 4, only see the doctor when you're sick. 5, it's expensive to be healthy. These 5 attitudes prevent us from being healthy. So the first attitude is it's out of my control. Genetics are responsible for less than 1% of our health. So it actually is 99% in our control. All the things we do on a daily basis determine whether we're healthy or not. So you can't blame it on your parents. Are drugs the answer to humanity's problems? Well, the United States consumes more drugs than any country in the world, yet we're ranked 37th. If there was the answer, we'd be ranked number 1. So when you study pharmaceuticals, historically, pharmaceutical is kind of like a chiropractic adjustment. You introduce a force to make a correction, the body rights itself, and then it's good to go, right? That's the way, if you study pharmaceuticals, that's how they were designed. But most people today, if they get on a medication, they never come off the medication. And so you end up getting side effects, and then those side effects cause you to get on another medication, and then there's a downward trend. Now, they came out with a groundbreaking answer for that problem. Anybody have any guesses? This is actually a real thing. This doctor stumbled upon this thing. They check the person in the hospital, they put them on an IV solution, and they take them off all medication, and they just sit there in the hospital bed for 2 weeks. Guess what happens? Most of them get better. They get hydrated, they rest, and they get healthy. Prevention versus crisis. If you buy a car, drive it as hard as you can, never do any maintenance, never do any oil changes, eventually that car will blow up. If it blows up right in front of a new car dealership, you can just walk out of the blown up one, get into the new one, and drive off, right? But you can't do that with your body. It's the only one you're going to get. You have to take care of it. You have to practice prevention. What are symptoms? Symptoms are merely the result of the body being out of balance and alerting you to a problem within. Symptoms serve as a warning that something needs to be explored and changed in one's life. Illness is a message. Dennis Jaffe, PhD. So if the fire alarm goes off, you wouldn't cut the wire to the fire alarm. You find out what the reason it's going off for. So a lot of what happens in medicine is it gets covered up, right? Ignored, and then it becomes a bigger problem. Second attitude, it's normal to get sick. So is it the seed or the soil? So there's plenty of people with great genetic potential that never amount to anything, right? The soil is about your environment and cultivation, right? So you can still become great if your genetics aren't perfect. So the end result of that is it's the environment that makes the difference of whether you get sick or not and how your body's working from the inside out, but it's not normal to get sick. Third attitude, disease makes us sick. Lack of harmony, disease is lack of harmony inside the body. Hippocrates talked about health was ease, so everything's in balance, it's working right, it's at ease. When it first moves away from being at ease or in balance, then that's disease. It doesn't mean you have symptoms. It's like in chiropractic, if your leg length's off, but you don't feel anything wrong, that's disease. And then disease, without the hyphen, is like when you can see the disease under a microscope and, swelling, redness, different things like that, pain. Then you have the full disease. We spend billions of dollars a year studying disease and virtually nothing on health. So we're focused on disease, so that's what we get, right? President Nixon declared a war on cancer in like 1972, and every year since then the cancer rate's gone up. We're not doing a good job with that, but if we focus on health, we might make more progress. So Mother Teresa was asked to speak at an anti-war rally, and she wouldn't do it, and everybody was upset. Oh my gosh, I can't believe she won't come speak. And then later they asked her about it, and they said, well, if you have a pro-peace rally, I'll speak at that. How life begins. 2 weeks after fertilization, the primitive streak is created. This will become the central nervous system, controlling every other cell tissue in the human body. You guys are probably wondering, when is he going to start talking about scoliosis, right? So your first thing that happens is you have this spinal cord that's created inside. Everything grows off of that, right? Then we have the baby in utero with this fetal curve, and then the amniotic fluid. So if the mother falls or something, that arc protects the baby, and the fluid protects the baby. So the mother is the baby is very safe to trauma. It's a very protective environment. This fetal curve is very important with scoliosis. You want to maintain this posterior curve right here. So there's a book written by a French OBGYN named Frederick Labourier. It's called Birth Without Violence. And what he saw was in a medical birth, the baby is taken out violently. Then the room's all bright, super bright. They lay them on their back on a steel table, shine a light in their eyes, drop some silver drops in their eyes, and they're like, welcome to the world. And he thought that that was a little bit too much to go straight from the womb to have all that stuff happen in like 30 seconds. So he talked about slowing the process down, skin to skin contact, waiting to wash the baby, don't lay him on the back, nursing right away. When you have a baby, if you're in a medical setting, it's like the nurse says, can I take the baby? But he talked about, no, you want to keep the baby with the mother for a long amount of time. Don't put him on the back. You want to put them in the sling where they're preserving that fetal curve because you want to keep this curve. If you lose this curve, so if they look at scoliosis patients, most of them are flat in the middle back. So you want to preserve this curve when you're growing up. Now, when you're 3 to 6 months, you do tummy time and you develop that cervical curve. So if I face the way the baby is, baby's on their stomach, it's just an automatic innate function. When you lay them on their stomach and they're 3 months old, maybe even earlier than that, they start to do this, right? They're developing that cervical curve. It's like a natural thing that happens. It's automatic. So if you don't have a cervical curve, either you didn't do that or there was some kind of trauma because it's designed for that to happen. And then when you crawl 6 to 12 months, you develop the lumbar lordosis. So now you've got a forward curve here, backward curve here, forward curve here, and it's a strong, stable spine. You have flexibility and strength. If you don't do the tummy time and the crawling before you stand up and walk, then you tend to have scoliosis and learning disabilities. And there's a lot of research on that, and they'll even do stuff now with adults where they're trying to rewire their brain, and they'll have them crawling around on the ground around the clinic, trying to get that wiring going again. Defense against germs. There's no magic bullet, instant gratification, or miracle cure against viruses or bacteria. There's only increased internal resistance from hard work, nutrition, exercise, rest, and positive mental attitude. The central nervous system controls the other 5 systems in the human body: glandular, elimination, digestive, musculoskeletal, circulatory, lymphatic. So the brain sending signals down the spinal cord out to all these organ cells and tissues. Gray's Anatomy states the central nervous system controls and coordinates every other cell, tissue, organ in the human body. So everything's coming from the brain down, out the nerves to heal everything. Your body's 98% new every year. So do you still have to clip your fingernails? Do you still have to get a haircut? So your body's pushing out new cells all the time, right? So the question is, are they healthier than the ones that were there before? Even a spur on an x-ray is not the same spur 7 years later. Even if you have like long-term cancer, those cancer cells aren't the same ones. They've been replaced with more cancer cells. So health is the body regenerating versus degenerating. Guidance physiology states the autonomic nervous system is the major system in controlling the mechanisms of homeostasis. Homeostasis is your body's ability to adapt to the environment. So, is a fever good or bad?
Good.
Bad.
Good.
Okay, why is it good?
Because it's showing your body's fighting off the infection.
Right, your body's responding, right?
Yeah.
So imagine the example I give people is you go to an unnamed restaurant and you have a bad oyster unknowingly and you start throwing up like 45 minutes later. Is that good or bad?
Good.
It's good. You wouldn't want that like festering in your body. You would want to get it out, right? All right, I think we had a major breakthrough there. All right, subluxation. We see the word silent degeneration. So subluxation is when a bone is out of place, interfering with the nerve to a point where it stops the mental impulses of the nerve, right? Now, 90% of the nerve function is controlling all your bodily functions. So it doesn't have anything to do with pain. So you can have a lot of things go wrong over a long time without feeling pain, okay? So that's why pain is a poor indicator. And like people with adult degenerative scoliosis, all of a sudden they, go get a colonoscopy or a chest x-ray or something, and they're like, the tech tells them, you have scoliosis. And the patient says, no, I don't. And they go, well, you didn't have it, but now you do have it. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm 60 years old. But it happens slowly at first, but then very quickly. So that's called silent decay. Your body's like a garden with proper raw materials and no interference. You will regenerate and be healthy. Healing takes time. So the spinal cord is like the hose, the sprinklers like the nerves, the roses are like the garden. If you have a rock on the hose, then the roses are going to die. You take the rock off the hose, it's going to allow the body to regenerate and heal. Subluxations distort the structure of the spine, reducing and eliminating curves, therefore altering the biomechanics of the spine. Research shows when this happens, you create a degenerative process that always goes to completion. So you have these normal curves. If you don't have them and gravity's coming down, it will degenerate. It's like a biomechanical adaptation. It will happen because it's too much stress. Just like this bridge, if you have a normal curve, it's going to keep it strong and stable. If they didn't have this curve here, then that bridge is going to collapse, just like your spine would. Subluxation equals degeneration. They did a famous autopsy study called the Windsor autopsies, and they found that everybody had some pinched nerve, that wherever that pinched nerve was, when they followed it to the organ showed pathological changes. The worse the misalignment, the worse the organ pathology. So what do we do about it? We get adjusted, allowing the body to regenerate and heal. Why do you go to a chiropractor? To get adjusted, correcting and preventing subluxation. Subluxations are
Compressions against the nerve.
Yeah, so that is where the bone's out of alignment, interfering with the nerve, causing interference, so then the brain can't get that transmission to the organ. Because what's more important, pain or nerve flow to an organ?
The second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Degenerating spine. This patient came in at 52 years old. Neck pain, shoulder pain, mid-back pain, low back pain, numbness and tingling down the left arm, depression, migraines, high blood pressure, anxiety, and insomnia, tinnitus, and acid reflux. They had gotten to the point where walking was difficult. They no longer could hike. Rated quality of life is 3 out of 10. They were taking pain medication and blood pressure medication every day. And they just received their first chiropractic adjustment when this x-ray was taken. Their head's severely forward, so it's going to feel like it weighs 30 pounds. They have a reversal of the normal curve, disc degeneration, bone spurs. The spinal cord is being stretched because of that position that it's in, causing nerve interference. This is a healthy spine, no pain or conditions. Patient works full-time, walks 2 miles every day, pain-free, rates quality of life is 10 out of 10. They do not take any medication. They do take chlorella, which is a compressed algae. It has all your vitamins, minerals, and protein in it. Makes your body more alkaline, helps with cleansing. At age 26, they went through corrective chiropractic care and have had at least a monthly maintenance adjustment ever since then, and they're 55 years old. So the reason I showed these two cases is this patient's 3 years older than the other patient. Because patients will always say, isn't it just my age? No, it's your alignment. It's like I bought a set of tires one time, and they didn't have the tire aligned properly, and I went on a road trip. Within 300 miles, I had a blown out tire, but it was a brand new tire. It was because of the alignment. So the head's half as far forward. They have the proper curve in the neck, proper disc spacing, no bone spurs, relaxed spinal cord, and no symptoms. So wherever you are, you want to work toward being a healthy spine. This patient came in, she was about 12 years old, had severe migraines, was unable to go to school even though she was on migraine medication. She had been at a prestigious hospital like Mayo and had been to neurologists, CAT scans, MRIs. Their answer for her was a migraine medication. Even with the migraine medication, the migraines never went away. And so they came in to see me, and this is her x-ray. So her head is severely far forward. These two bones should be parallel, so they're compressed here. Complete reversal of the curve in the neck, and that's going to stretch the spinal cord. So that's what was causing the migraines. So she went through corrective care in our office. The head was half as far forward. This is after 2 months. These two are now parallel. She's got the proper curve in the neck. No more migraine. She's back in school off migraine medication. So if she would have never came in our office, she would have just been known as the migraine patient. She's a migraine patient. She's on migraine medication. And that just would have been it. And then what would have happened is migraine medication is it's like a brain altering medication. It would have started to cause other things to happen with her, through her life. This patient, we discovered scoliosis early on when she was 9 years old. So over a 3-year period of time, she went from a 22-degree curve to a 16-degree curve to a 10-degree curve. Now, the reason I really like this case is when we look at the upper neck, you can see when she had the 22-degree curve, the upper neck was way out of alignment here. When she had the 16, it looked better. And then when she had the 10, it looked even better. So one of the theories of scoliosis is that if your upper neck gets out of alignment, that's where the postural control center is. So it increases scoliosis susceptibility.
Yeah, that was the question I had about your school, is how much focus they put on the neck and the axis and that type of thing.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
So, and with the specialty I have in neurology and with the clear, we do a lot of special type of x-rays that most people don't do. I mean, I would venture to say that in Northeast Florida, I'm probably the only person that takes x-rays quite the way I do. It's very specific. We can measure the misalignment within 1/10 of a degree and 1/10 of a millimeter, and it's very specific. This is an adult patient that went through 3-time-a-week scoliosis care. She went from 24/12 to 13/9. This patient got into a car accident. You can see her neck was way out of alignment. Her posture and leg check looked better within the first few days. So after 3 days, I did a follow-up x-ray, and you can see she had a very good correction in a short amount of time. So the younger you are, the quicker the correction. Your body responds better. There's not memory. The ligaments and tendons haven't gotten shorter. The brain's not in a pattern of, that's the way it is. So it's much easier to correct younger children. This is an x-ray from the side of the lower back, like this. So when I was in chiropractic school, we would never see this. As a matter of fact, I don't think I ever did see one like this. But it's very common now because of gaming, sitting, phones, things like that. So I was at a neurology meeting, listened to a speaker, and he said the human brain, for it to function normally, people are meant to walk 12 miles per day. So with everybody sitting and being sedentary, they're not developing this forward curve. And so this person's completely like this. They went through 12 visits to chiropractic corrective care that we do here, and we were able to restore that curve to the normal way. So this is how an x-ray typically would look on a 9 to 12-year-old from the side. But today, with people not being outside as much, sitting, gaming, phones, they're starting to look like that. If a patient has a 2-year-old in the office and they're trying to settle them down, they'll hand them an iPad or something, and the kid is like this. They can put themselves in like this fetal position where they're looking straight down at the device. If you hand an adult an iPad, they look at it like this. They can't put themselves in that position. But these kids are doing it from an early age, so there's going to be a lot more neurogenic diseases because of all this. This is a daughter of a medical doctor up in South Carolina, and she came down for corrective care. So she had like a 25-degree curve that went down below 10 degrees. So she no longer had scoliosis. That was over a 6-month period of time. This is a local patient that went through corrective care, and in 9 months, they went from like 25-degree scoliosis to 0. And so the corrective process in the office, we call it mix, fix, and set. Mix is a warming up of the spine to get the spine more pliable to correct back to normal. Fix is the specific adjustment. And then set or exercises to get the brain to hold everything in alignment. So we do wobble chair exercises to heat up the spine, cervical repeat traction, moving the head back over the shoulders and the curve of the neck. Eckert table helps to loosen up the disc. If it's a scoliosis patient, they're placed in a mirror image of their curve. If it's an acute low back patient, we're doing it in a way to get the pressure off that low back disc. Cervical vibratory traction helps bring the head back over the shoulders and the curve of the neck. Core stem helps to balance the muscles out, get toxins out of the muscles. Mechanical drop, especially if you have a thoracic curve, the ribs can affect your breathing. It helps with that. Then we do this specific adjustment, which is based on what we find on the x-ray. This is restoring the kyphotic curve in a scoliosis patient. So like we said, most scoliosis patients are flat in here. So we want to promote that posterior curve. Scoliosis traction chair, you're placed in a mirror image of the curve. The chair vibrates at a frequency to get the brain to hold everything in alignment. So you're getting to exercise in a gravity-free situation. Most exercise makes scoliosis worse. So if you already have a 30-degree curve and you do a pull-up, you're going to look like this. If you do a sit-up, you'll actually see the person's belly button go like this. So these are exercises to work on balancing things. And then the last one is spinal weighting, where we're using these lever arms to trick the brain into correcting the spine. We do an x-ray of you doing this to make sure it's working, and then we have you do that same thing at home. And we do the same thing with the chair. We take an x-ray in the chair to make sure it is working. ScoliBrace, the future of scoliosis bracing, it's an overcorrective or supercorrective brace. So if the scoliosis is like this, the brace is going to put you in a position like this. Traditional scoliosis bracing was just like a tube, and it held the spine tight to hope it didn't get worse, right? This is a mirror image. So we take a structural schema of the body, it creates a hologram, and then we take that information with the posture pictures and x-ray, we send it to an engineer in Australia, and then they make the mirror image brace. It Velcros in the front so you can put it on and off yourself. Traditional scoliosis braces, somebody else had to tighten it from the back. So the patient's in control, so that empowers the patient a lot more. There's holes for air ventilation, and you can move in the direction of the correction, but not in the direction that makes it worse. So you're exercising your spine while you have the brace on in the corrected position, which is going to prevent atrophy. And in adolescent, you can see she was shifted to the left. The brace brings her to the right. Out of the brace, she's straight. And this is when she stopped wearing the brace at 12 months. She's holding the correction. In this case, they went from 33 to 11 to 6 degrees, which was an extreme correction. And this was like somebody that started at the beginning of adolescence. So the bones had not yet completely formed. So you can actually change the shape of the bone if you start early enough in the scoliosis process. This is an adult wearing the scoliosis brace. So they go from a 64-degree curve to a 39-degree curve when they have the brace on. So they're not getting a complete reduction of their scoliosis as an adult, but when they wear the brace, it's in a much better position. They feel better. It prevents progression, helps to strengthen the spine, helps their flexibility, and they feel better with it. In adults, when the spine starts to degenerate, one of the goals is just making the posture better. So the more your posture is off to the side or like this, the more likely you're to have pain and disability. So it helps with older patients to keep that under control. And the adult scoliosis brace is usually cut lower down, So it's much easier to tolerate. Most adult scoliosis is in the lumbar spine, and the goals are reducing pain. People want to play with their grandchildren. They find that in the afternoon, standing, they're in pain. They might wake up with pain. So the goals are a little bit different. It's more some correction and stopping pain and progression. Waiting is dangerous. We want to avoid surgery. There can be major side effects to surgery, infection. If you have scoliosis surgery, in the literature it says it's not a question of if the hardware will fail, it's a matter of how long you live. If you live long enough, the hardware will fail. If you get into a car accident, screws can break, rods can break, and then they have to decide what are they going to do. They're going to have what's called a revision surgery, and that is not good. So you know that surgeons, they use terms like fresh backs and necks. Their goal is to go in there, do the surgery once, everything goes good, and they never see the patient again. That's what they hope for. But what if the patient keeps coming back? Right? They don't know what to do. They don't like that. And the patient doesn't like it either. So the best way to avoid that is to not get the surgery to begin with. Okay? So we do everything we can to help prevent surgery. I just referred a patient for surgery last week, so I'm not like opposed to surgery 100%. This patient had a completely degenerated hip, and it was just going to get worse. And if they got chiropractic care, it may help their overall health, but their pain and disability was, the hip was totally gone. They're going to walk out of the hip surgery feeling better than they have in years, okay? How do you get a subluxation? Overwhelming stress, trauma, and toxins. So if we get into a car accident, you get a fax report, right? And that car can never sell for what it would have if it never got into a car accident, right? Your body's kind of the same way. Your body has a great potential to heal, but you can't change the fact that things got altered in that car accident. And then there's toxins. Medication or just eating unhealthy will change the way organs work, and those organs reflex back to the spine. It's called a visceral somatic reflex. So if the organs are toxic, it'll pull the spine out of alignment. So all stresses are like that, these three stresses. Think about it like a fuse box, and you have the dryer going, then you put the curling iron in, then you put the hair dryer on. Somebody starts the dishwasher or the blender, and all of a sudden, boom, the power goes out, right? So your body's like that, but imagine the breaker switch is your spine. If it gets under too much stress, eventually it goes out of alignment. The original subluxation, this video is a video that the Department of Navy made training doctors to deliver, and this is a normal situation, meaning there was no crisis here. They're just delivering the baby. Does anybody notice anything?
Pointing at.
They're pulling the head, right? And it's going to get these little bones out of alignment. So an infant like that, these bones weigh like 1 ounce. And there's not a lot of ligaments, not a lot of muscles. It's very easy to get them out of alignment, but it could cause permanent damage. Then if it's a more serious problem with the delivery, they may end up using forceps, things like that. Very easy to damage the neck. We already talked about that's one of the causes of scoliosis. The cause of all disease is your body's inability to regenerate. Balance equals health. When you're in balance physically, chemically, and emotionally, you will be healthy. Fourth attitude, only go to the doctor when you're sick, and you better have insurance. Better to go to the doctor when you're healthy, and then you won't need insurance. Fifth attitude, it costs money to stay healthy. True, however, it costs a lot more money to be sick. 50% of all bankruptcies are caused by medical bills. Prevention makes more sense. Take care of your incredible body. So the worst case scenario is you can't work and you have piling up medical bills. So we don't like to use fear as a motivator, but when you're making healthcare decisions, those things should motivate you, right? I want to get this taken care of because I don't want to be in that situation, right? So eat some good food, go for a swim, and laugh. All right, in the state of Florida, we have an unusual car insurance. If you're from other states, it doesn't work like it does in Florida. In Florida, we have no fault insurance. So no matter whose fault it is in the car accident, it goes through your insurance first, and then the insurance companies kind of work it out amongst themselves. You have 14 days to get to the doctor, and the doctor must say you have an emergency medical condition for you to use your PIP health benefits to pay for this, okay? So people can have a lot of symptoms they might not associate with the car accident. Nausea, dizziness, jaw trouble, difficulty concentrating, ringing in the ears, insomnia, lightheadedness. So let's say you're going to work after the accident and you're just not thinking right. And this goes on for like a week or two, and eventually you're like, you know what? It definitely was the accident. I wasn't like this before. I'm going to go to a neurologist. You call and make an appointment. They can't get you in for a week. You show up. Guess what? You can't use your PIP insurance because you waited after 14 days. So make sure you get checked, and they have to say emergency medical condition in the report. We had a patient recently. She had already had a pre-existing fusion in her neck. She gets into a car accident. She immediately goes to the emergency room. They take a CAT scan of her. In the note, the doctor didn't say emergency medical condition. We went around and around with the insurance company for weeks. And they didn't claim responsibility. It was like so cut and dry, you know, but you know, you have to understand how it works and get all the ducks in a row to prevent having hassles. There's 3 phases of chiropractic care. The first care is relief care, and we may need to check you daily in order to do that. We want you to feel better. If you're not feeling better, then nobody's happy. And then the second phase is corrective care. That is usually 3 times a week, but it can also be daily for patients from out of town or complicated conditions, or maybe, you know, twice a week. Preventative care is usually once a week or once a month, depending what your stress level is. If you're a professional football player, you're probably getting checked a couple times a week. The neck bone brings the head over the shoulders and puts the curve in the neck. So most people are sleeping like this. This helps you sleep like this, okay? Keeps the head back over the shoulders, puts the curve in the neck. These are called prism glasses. It allows you to be looking this way. You can see this way, so you can read in bed, watch TV, use a device without it hurting your head and neck. Can prevent a lot of problems for people. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Benjamin Franklin. So this guy had infantile torticollis. So when he was born, his head was like this. The upper neck was out of alignment and from birth trauma, and the doctors wanted to come in here and cut this muscle to balance things out. And the mother decided to bring him instead here. Within a few weeks, he was back to normal. You can see she's happy. And that's the tummy time we're talking about. So he's bringing that head up and putting that curve in the neck. Prevention starts early. This patient has 6 kids, and each pregnancy she was a patient in the office. All the kids got checked shortly after birth to make sure everything was okay. And you can see they're happy. Science-based nutrition is a special testing that we do. It looks at blood, urine, and hair analysis to determine vitamin deficiencies, toxicity. So we look at the overall health picture, vitals, medications that you're on. The lab work will indicate different health problems that you may know you have or you may not know you have yet. And this is showing the metal toxicity. If you've lived somewhere with a well or worked in a metal situation, a lot of people have metal toxicity. And sometimes the answer is as simple as using a 5-stage filter or something like that. But it can cause a lot of problems. And then the panel that we look at is much more specific than you would get for a regular physical. A regular physical will pick a few vitamins and minerals to have on there, but they don't have all of them. This has all of them. And then there's a specific recommendation based on what your problems are, and then we do a follow-up test in a couple months. when you find that we've helped you out, if you let other people know, we'd appreciate it. Anybody have any questions? All right.
Thank you. Nope.
Okay, well, I appreciate you guys coming tonight. And from St. Augustine, Florida, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. So, all right, Braden and Dad, we can go back and look at the x-ray.